Our next presentation, if everybody's ready. I know that between me and lunch is our LinkedIn presentation. I'm J.R. Richardson. I'm the director of the Military Veteran Services Center. As Edwin said earlier, thank you for coming in today, and hopefully some information you get will be beneficial to you. Tell you a little bit about myself. I always start with the good news. I have about 126 years in recruiting experience. I know I don't look that old. It's because of my 18 years of active duty recruiting. They were all dog years. And so I have actually recruited over 1,000 people into a blue uniform, and many others in the Army, Navy, and Marines as well. But that was as a direct recruiter responsible for a goal for 18 straight years. My full military service is 25 years in the Air Force, and then after retiring in 2007, I did a lot of business-to-business sales, and kind of found my niche recruiting businesses the same way that I recruited individuals. It was very similar in looking for certain characteristics within a business so that I can make good matches for pursuing federal government contracting opportunities. And it was then that I found my weapon of choice, which is LinkedIn. LinkedIn helped me and served me well as a recruiter, recruiting businesses, but then later on I became a executive headhunter and worked as a consulting for a large engineering firm, recruiting executive level individuals. As Jeff was talking about earlier, almost everything he said is what I was going to say, so my presentation's complete. Thank you. But the big thing is I'm going to give you LinkedIn from a recruiter standpoint. And this has gotten very, very scientific, as Jeff mentioned, that over 90% of the prospective employers are going to be looking at your profile before they make you an offer. Well, I'm going to go a little bit further, and I think you mentioned a statistic, 60% actually were not hired because of their profile. And I've seen exactly that. But again, I was the executive recruiter, and here's the important thing that you need to know. A couple years ago, or not a couple years, about a year ago, during the State of the Union address, our president mentioned to potential employers publicly during the State of the Union address to quit having biases towards unemployed people. Well, the first thing I can tell you is, as an executive level recruiter, if it says looking for work, you just guaranteed that you're not going to be hired. If it says looking for new opportunity, you just guaranteed that you're not going to be hired. If it says in transition, you just guaranteed that you're not going to be hired. Because many policies within the HR departments, especially when they're looking for executive level individuals or professional individuals, they won't allow their HR people to hire somebody that's unemployed.
That's why.
Why won't they do that?
Yes.
A lot of times it's because the bias is when HR is out there, they're looking at risk factors. That's why they go out and they look at your profile. If they see you with something in your hand drinking, as Jeff mentioned, they have to wonder, was that an alcoholic beverage? Are you at a party? Is this somebody that's a loose cannon, so to speak, in our organization? Is this somebody that's going to represent our organization well? Those are all going to be risk factors that a company may or may not be willing to absorb in the hiring, especially the more money you make, the higher level of position they're looking to bring you on at. Those are greater factors that they're going to be considering. And then there's one other consideration, and that is who pays unemployment insurance? Employers do. Employers do. So if they see that you have been unemployed for 18 months, then they know that if it doesn't work out with us, I'm going to be paying you for the next 18 months or however longer it's going to take you to find a new job. So there's that element as well. And then there's the final element, especially in areas that are in high demand, the medical field, the engineering field, areas in high demand, they have to scratch their head and say, well, if that company needs them, that company needs them, we need them, why don't they have a job? There must be something else there. And Jeff also mentioned is the questions that are unanswered. What you want to do is you want to make sure that all those questions are answered in your LinkedIn profile, because it is a professional profile. It is that discussion. I've never heard it put that way, and I really appreciated what you shared in the Facebook being the barbecue conversation. Well, this definitely is that professional networking event type conversation where you are presenting yourself. Because what I did as a recruiter is I was a professional stalker. I put myself in a position where you and I would be able to have a conversation. And there was a reason I put myself in that position to have that conversation with you, is because I did a search on LinkedIn. And the company that I represented, we spent $40,000 a year for LinkedIn recruiter licenses. And when you're a customer of LinkedIn, they put you, when you spend that kind of money, they put you in the center of their training programs. They put you in the center of their development programs, because they are a very aggressive company. Are there any Excel experts here? All that is Excel to the nth degree. Because if I go in there as a recruiter with a recruiter search, which I currently don't have a license, if I go in there as a recruiter with the recruiter search, and I'm being flippant here, but I'm trying to give you the idea, and I say that I want a blue-eyed, left-handed, Puerto Rican Jewish engineer with 15 years of design experience from Iowa State University, and I list whatever the characteristics of that person. I want a female applicant. I want somebody with the West Coast. I want somebody from California, because of that different culture that they might have on the West Coast versus my East Coast operation. I put all those factors in there, and then I tell LinkedIn to do something for me. Search 300 million profiles. 300 million profiles. And I tell it how many I want. Do I want 500? Do I want 50? Do I want 15? I did a search the other day with an individual. I won't mention any names, but we put in some specific characteristics about that person and still couldn't find him. Well, if I know you and I know about you and I can't find you, how can a recruiter find you? So the key is you want to put that professional profile in such a manner that even when you're sleeping, even when you're out golfing or fishing, even when you're gardening in the backyard, you're still working, because that LinkedIn profile is your own method of going out there and marketing yourself 24/7 for somebody who's looking for the talents that you bring and the brand that you created yourself. You need more time than that?
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, because I could handle that if you want. Because 40 minutes with me is like 4.5 hours in a closet with an Amway salesman. So the time can drag a little bit. But we were just talking about, if a recruiter can't find you, if somebody who knows you well and cannot find your profile, then a recruiter can't. And LinkedIn becomes that tool, that marketing tool for you that is out there working 24/7. That's one thing. The other thing about this beautiful tool, and I'm going to talk to you about it from a user standpoint, is everybody here that is a veteran, raise hands, veterans, you will be able to go in and sign up for a free upgrade for the LinkedIn jobs piece to this, which is a truly $50 upgrade. That's why I feel like a broken winged bird, because you get used to this capability and now all of a sudden you don't have it anymore. Well, I was paying the $50 and then I switched over to the free upgrade, and it's been a year and my free upgrade just expired. So they got me again. I'm going to have to sign up for another upgrade here on the professional side. But if you go into this jobs, for those that are seeking jobs, you type in there something like sales manager, Omaha, Nebraska. Yeah. Why is it not wanting to type for me? Maybe a battery issue? Yeah, but it didn't get my sales manager. And then we go to search. Again, organizations such as who I worked for, they spend a lot of money creating profiles so that when I just type that in, I don't just get sales managers. I get profiles or job opportunities where this automatically searched my profile and it loads advertisements based on me. When you get the upgrade, we would be able to click on this first job, and the upgrade would tell you how many people applied for this job. Not only would the upgrade tell you how many people applied, because remember it was based on your profile, yeah. It will actually instantaneously, if there's been 10 people or more that applied for that job, it will tell you where you rack and stack among all those 10 people or more. What's that? How do you do that? We're going to show you that while we're here. But it'll automatically show you. So if there's a job out there that you want, you're saying, man, I'd love to get that job, and you apply for it, and all of a sudden you see there's 23 people that has also applied for that. Right. And all of a sudden you find out of those 23 people, you're in the top 5%, which is the highest I've ever seen.
It actually gives you that.
It'll give you that percentage. That'll tell you that maybe that's a job you should be applying for. Conversely, if you sit there and you click on that and it says you're in the bottom 50%, then you have to see what Jeff was talking about earlier. What is it about your profile and your branding that makes you different than those other individuals? If you can't answer that, there's no reason to even go further and apply, because it's a matter of wasting your time. HR today is not like it was HR 15 years ago. HR today is done so methodically through the digital media and through all the information that's out there that people have access to, that people are screened without even knowing they're being screened. Or in my case, people are being stalked without knowing they're being stalked. Professionally stalked, but it's no different. I have literally, I call it triangulating. I have literally purchased a plane ticket, flew halfway across the country to meet with somebody who I know was gainfully employed, but they were somebody that I wanted on my team. And I've gotten on a plane and flew across the country to meet with them because I knew by the organizations that they are part of, by their updates that they did in their LinkedIn profiles, that they were going to be a speaker at a major event. So I made sure I was at that event so that I can engage in them in a conversation. Yes. Because that was the person I wanted on my team. I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan. Anybody St. Louis Cardinal fans? I still have sores from Robert Pujols when he left us. Do you think when his contract ran up, he had to get on the phone and call any Major League Baseball team to get a job? Or do you think they all got in line and called him? If you know baseball, you know they got in line to call him. And that's the same thing you want to do here. Organizations are looking for those game changers. That doesn't mean that if you're unemployed, you don't have a chance. It means if you're unemployed, you have to position yourself to be able to market yourself to those organizations that you want to be a part of. Does that make sense? Yes, sir. So we're going to go through this overall to be a little bit methodical. We're just going to go through this and give you the overall perspective. And some of this that I show you will be kind of new to me, because I don't go in there and check out myself every time and update this as much as I used to, but you still want to do it routinely. So I still do it routinely, but I just don't manage it the way I used to manage it. And you'll be the same. This connection piece, for example, it used to show you exactly how many people you had as first person connections. Now it doesn't. I can't find the number in there anymore. I was in there the other day looking, but it doesn't show you anymore. Are you familiar with where it's at now?
They keep on changing things. And that'll show up, something else may show up there. Like, how many people have actually looked at your update. You put an update on your profile. So that changes.
Right, and you can go up here and put in here your privacy settings so you can tell it, well, now it wants me to log in so that it knows it's me still. But you can go in there and do the privacy settings, and you can tell them what you want people to see and what you don't want people to see about you. But if you go into the home pages, the only place I could find it the other day when we were looking for it is that it shows now that I have 2,800 connections, first-term connections. But I've been at this for a while, and again, as a salesperson, those connections were vital to me as I was meeting people at major events. I used to travel East Coast, West Coast on a weekly basis for several years. And that's when you're chasing work, those people, you want to be connected with all the right people that can help you. And then also, when you're going to search, it makes a big difference that if I'm looking for somebody with certain capabilities in my network, it makes it a lot easier to go through and search those folks. Some of the things that you're going to find are people in your network. These are the updates that Jeff had talked about earlier. These are the updates where some people are updating, and so people in my network, it's going to keep me informed on what they're doing. Here's an opportunity where people in your network, you might want to let them know little hints like available to take on additional responsibilities or whatever the case may be. Things that you're passionate, people can find you through there. But this is where you can update. You want to update with good, exciting information of things that are going on, like graduations, things of that nature. 15 ways to go in touch. LinkedIn will actually help you build your profile. It'll actually almost serve as an advisor for you, to the point that you could even go all the way down to the bottom. You used to could. Now it's just going to be all updates. So when we get to another screen, you can go all the way down to the bottom and actually phone call them, and they'll give you assistance. Going to the next thing on the profile, and this is going to be the biggest thing, and I'm signed in as me, so we'll actually see things a little different than what if you were to find me. So if you go into the profile, you want to make sure that this profile is up to date, professional picture, things that you may be passionate about, which I've never clicked on these. These are, again, this is not what you would see on me. This is what allows me to go in there and edit something on my profile.
Those are usually areas where you haven't filled something out and they're just making suggestions to round out.
Exactly, and that's where they're serving kind of like an advisor or whatever's trendy, if you will. They're just putting it out there that you can go in there and fill those things out. And again, going in on your branding, you want to make sure that your Facebook, the backyard barbecue, you still wouldn't get drunk and hit on the boss's wife, or conversely, the boss's husband. You want to make sure that it's still representing you if you have that where it could be viewed by everybody. If that's where you're entering, once you let it go, it's public. So you want to keep that in mind when you're posting those things. But when it comes to that public view on yourself, you want to make sure that your Facebook, your Twitter tweets that you do, that your resume, that they're all the same, given the same branding message. Each one will go a little deeper. Some of them you deep dive. Some of them will just be on the surface, but you still want them all to be consistent. You don't want to have your resume saying you're working for 2 different companies at different points in time, and then I go to your Facebook and I see that neither one of those companies are on there, but yet there's a third company that covers that date, that time and space. And you don't want to give that conflicting message, because the employers will look. The employers will look. That's very important to know. It's a common practice, and it has been tested in law, by the way. Can he use that to fire me? Can he use that to let me go? Can he use that to discriminate against me? Yes, they can, because it's public knowledge. Yes, sir. Next thing on the profile, you have your experiences. This is the employers are going to look a little deeper. And as it was mentioned earlier, with all these, when you're reaching out there, you want to show examples. You want, hopefully people will recommend you. Brian Lyon was here earlier, and it was very appreciative. He reached out because we worked together and did an endorsement. But this you want to do is show a little bit of who you are, your summary, and what do you do in your business, where you're working at now. And if I want to change something, I can just come up here and click it. And since it's me, I can change it. I just got to figure out how to get back out of there after I do it. Back to the phone. Okay, so as you go down through here, you're looking at the summary. This is going to be your elevator speech that was mentioned earlier today. This is probably the most important part of LinkedIn, because if I'm a CEO and I'm getting ready to make a decision, I have 3 candidates that HR has put forth. They've all interviewed. I got the comments from my team on what they feel about them. I'm getting ready to make that final decision. I jump on there. I probably won't go too much further than that summary. So you want to make sure that that's kind of your elevator speech that gives you a little bit of information of who you are and what you're doing and what it would mean for that organization to have you on their team. Going into the experiences, again, don't just put most people, if you've seen the Facebooks, or the LinkedIn, you'll see that most people will just put the title and the dates that they worked at certain companies. As it was mentioned earlier, and so I'm foot stomping because of the importance of it, you want to go a little bit further and talk about what do you do, what difference do you make, what accomplishments did you have in that role, because those are going to be the things that, again, they're going to be able to set you apart. And then, again, endorsements why you're in that role. If your endorsements are from eight years ago, they're not going to be as valid to an employer as if there's somebody saying, hey, he does this right now, or she does this right now in our organization, and man, does she knock it out of the park. This is what this person does in our organization, or this is what this person did for me. I was a customer of hers, and here's how she delivered their organization's products and things of that nature. Then if I go up, when I had the additional LinkedIn search, the upgrade, because of titles that you had, it will go in, and more on an executive level, you'll have more like executive positions sent to you, because you're matching the profile that they're looking for current opportunities. They didn't advertise, they found you based on that profile that they put in the job description. Does that make sense? So this is where they're getting that. They're stalking you from an advertisement level to fill their positions, all the companies that advertise with LinkedIn. And then that'll go all the way through. People have asked me how long. I go all the way back to my professional, because again, that's where that deep diving comes in handy. This one you can go in a little bit more in depth, because the employers and recruiters are going to do keyword search. So it may be all the way back to my Air Force experience that somebody is keyed in on me, or the employer might be a former Air Force member themselves. And they're thinking, well, I already know if this guy spent 25 years in the Air Force, I already know he's had a security clearance. I already know that he's been drug screened. I already know that by law violations he's been screened, and there's certain performance measures that he would have to, certain levels of performance he would have to meet in order to advance for those many years in that organization. So that's why you want to go back as far as you can, or desire to. And again, it's going to give you different endorsements and recommendations at different levels. All the way down to when I was in the Air Force. Here's another thing that I've seen people do that may or may not be necessary. Here, you can get away with it because of the word search. On a resume, you wouldn't want to do this, and that is break up all your time. Notice I put down in there from November of 1982. So I just put everything in one big chunk, because I'm not out there seeking a job. But if I did certain things in the Air Force that are relevant to my job search now, you may want to break it up further to show your different assignments and your different areas of responsibilities. With me, 25 years, it would be boom, 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 because about every 3 years, as you know, those that are prior service, we're moving and we're changing jobs. So only put the things at that point that may be relevant. If you're younger and you're in that job hunt, it's going to be more relevant to you than if you're old and fat like me. Then it's not going to be as yet relevant what I did when I was 22 years old or 27 years old. Do you see where I'm getting to? So you got to use your best judgment, but if there's a certain skill that you possess, then you certainly want to be able to put that on there because that's going to come up in that keyword search. Let me tell you how powerful LinkedIn can be. We had a young man who recently graduated from Bellevue University with a project management degree. I met him. His name's Simon Lopinian. I met Simon when he came knocking on our door looking for a job. We talked about LinkedIn. He was starting from ground one because he just got out of the Army Reserve. He was a special operations operator and spoke 10 languages fluently by Department of Defense standards. He has never been on LinkedIn. We took him in this room in here. We sat down, we built his profile just that moment, that day. He's never ever heard of it before. We built his profile, so you can imagine it was a pretty slim profile. But I knew, because I work as an executive recruiter and we work in 96 different countries, I knew the most powerful thing that guy had was his language skills and his current federal security clearance. We put those items in there. The very next day, Simon was offered a job in Washington, D.C. The very next day. And some of you in here know Simon. That's how powerful a tool that is. Because even while the recruiter was sleeping at night, and while Simon was sleeping at night, the jobs that the recruiter was looking for are all pre-programmed in LinkedIn. So when somebody meets that match, it sends out the flyer, the blinker for them. And so the recruiter knew, hey, here's somebody that has the skills that I need. And the offer was made the very next day. That's how powerful a tool that can be. So if there's some skills that you have, that's how powerful it can be. So anyway, going in there, and then we're going to get into certifications. Professional certifications can be more valuable than a college degree. Your C++, CNN, or Security Plus, Network Plus, your Cisco certification, your Microsoft certifications, those certifications can be your CNA, your RN, all those certifications and licensures can be much more powerful to an employer than the college degree might be. So make sure that you place all those in there. Yes, ma'am.
Do you put certifications that you held but are expired now?
No, you absolutely should. And the reason is because when you put those in, you could put the dates in there, or you could just put those in there because it's better for that recruiter to call you and say, hey, listen, I'm contacting you, and they might do it by email, about your such and such certification. Well, listen, you might not have got that recertified simply because of money. I'm not working in that area anymore. I don't have the money to go out and get that certification, so I just didn't get it. But you can get it if you needed it for a job. And so at least it allows you to have that conversation. So there's nothing dishonest with putting the certification up there, even if it's expired, because you once held it. And that would allow a recruiter to tag in on that certification if that's the key word that they are looking for. It also tells potential employers or current employers that are about to hire you, if they go in there and see that you're a Red Cross certified, CPR certified, emergency management certified, workplace violence certified, things that might be of additional skill that they go, oh, and they got two equal candidates, it might be that certification that gets you the job, because they know that you've held that responsibility before or been formally trained and certified in that area before. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about safety in a workplace, or workplace violence today, or security issues. If you were a security manager at one time, things like that nature, those are going to be powerful for current employers.
Does the recommendation boss mean anything?
Oh, it absolutely would. A recommendation, especially if it's a place where you're not currently working, is very powerful.
See, I have two recommendations, two jobs I done. The last one I done for 20 years, and I got a recommendation from that owner,
Right.
and I got a recommendation from the temporary job that I got here when I moved here, Omaha.
Both of those are powerful. It's because if your employer will say something good about you, then they know that when you left, it was either because of your personal reasons or because of business reasons, a downsizing. In the professional world, many people are lost because of procurements of companies. The name might stay the same, but if you're not intricately involved with that company, you might not realize that they were purchased by another company, and internally they're merging with other assets that they have in some of their other affiliated companies. So when that happens, they won't have duplication of effort within that organization. They're going to be looking at cutting out the fat, so to speak, streamlining the process. And unfortunately, in the real world, that means downsizing, upsizing, right-sizing, backward sizing, whatever you want to call. It means that those organizations are shuffling and becoming more lean.
So the one that I was from is still very active, and it's a phone system. And like I told you, I got that from him when I moved down here.
Right. Well, and that's going to be powerful because that one potential employer is going to know that they were very happy with your services.
Do you do that, give that to them, and when you apply your resume with it, or do you hold on to it?
I wouldn't have it on the resume itself. What I always put on the resume is references available on request. And in my case, and if you can't do that, does not mean you're a bad guy, or it doesn't mean I'm a good guy because I do it. But what I do is I say all references available for all previous employments, periods of employment. That way people know at every one of my organizations it was for good reasons. Because when I worked in the engineering world, I didn't realize until I became a part of it how fluid that organization, that world is. Because many engineers, when they work by projects, and when a major project's complete, they just increase their skill level. And so now they are on the market because now they have that background and experience. They're moving up and into other organizations, and it may be more project specific than it is company specific. So you'll find that engineers tend to move around a lot more than some of the other professionals might. And so because of that, it's powerful to know that, hey, I'm not job hunting, I'm working by projects, things of that nature. So it gives a little bit more of your branding.
Yeah.
And in my case, I put in my branding. If you look through here and if you were to really dissect it, hopefully what you find is a person who's used to working with C-level leaders within organizations, and I do business-to-business matches. That's not what I do currently, but I mean that's my strong experience coming into what I'm doing right now. Publications, this will give you ideas of articles that you may have written, books that you may have published, white papers that you may have done, proposals, if they were public proposals that you may been involved with for technical writing, things of that nature. But you're basically putting anything in there that you want the public to know that, hey, this is what I've done, this is what I've been part of. And that's a powerful piece, especially when people are working at the level that rather than a resume, I'm giving you a CV. So somebody that's looking for a higher level position or is in a professional position, like the medical field is a big one. Medical journals that I've been involved with, articles that I've written, researches that I've been involved with, fellowships that I've done. That's where that's going to go in there. And then projects in here. Projects are big because one of the biggest areas to go into for employment today is project management. I was gainfully employed when I decided and somebody kicked me in the rear end to finish my college degree. And like a lot of GIs, I had gone to this school, that school, this school, that school, and had a big bucket of college credits. But because I never did go to school for a degree, purposely, me personal. I always went to school for what it is I was interested in at the time to increase my ability as a professional NCO, as a salesperson, whatever the case may be. So I went to school for me. A good example is I took English 101 3 times, and I passed it all 3 times. But I stunk at it, and the more I stunk, the more I wanted to take it, to grasp it, not for a degree, but for me. So that's just was my methodology. But when somebody said, JR, you need to do this for your family to set the reason, so that it's important, education's important to your family, then I gathered up all my credits and put it together here. And that's what you want to do with your, and I don't know how I got on this subject, but you want to put all your things together and get that degree, whatever the case may be. I'll get off my tangent and get back onto this. But your projects is what I started this with. When I got an opportunity to come out here and do this, this is something I'm very proud of, and this is a project. When I decided to get my degree, now my brain's back, old man brain, now my brain's back. When I decided to get my degree, I did a little research, and project management was one of the hottest fields, and currently still is, in the entire country. When I was looking at what degree do I want to do, the Department of Labor was predicting over 1 million jobs in project management. Well, how could that be? Well, the reason it is just like a lot of professions, the industry had positioned itself in such a way that a lot of government proposals required you to be either a project management professional, back to that certification level, or it required you to have a degree in project management in order for you to qualify to be a team member on that project. So because the industry was saying we need it, that created job openings. So those folks that are managing projects for years and years and years, if they don't meet the requirement in the solicitation, doesn't matter how many they've done, they're still not qualified. Does that make sense? So because the industry was being so readily accepted, and it's an international way of doing project management through PMI, Project Management Institute, it was like gangbusters. Opportunities were created for a lot of people, and so a lot of people were going in to get their certifications and also degrees. So anyway, that's why I selected that, and this center that you're in is a result of it. It's one of my first official projects at using the project management tools that I was taught. Before I was just doing it but not realizing what I was doing. Your skills and endorsements, what I do highly recommend people do is look at these skills. A lot of veterans, if we go in there and we start clicking on veterans, you'll find out that they'll have Air Force, security clearance, special operation missions. They'll have things that are related to their military career. And then, of course, all their buddies are going, oh, yeah, Frank knows special operations. Oh, yeah, Frank knows IEDs. You know, he knows bombs, he knows missiles, he knows sniper skills. Unfortunately, there's not too many civilian companies looking for sniper skills, IEDs, tanks, bombs. So you want to take those civilian skills that you have that you were taught by doing your military jobs, and those are the skills that you want to try to get elevated. And there's a little sneaky way to do that. It's by helping others. They usually turn around and help you. So I say, don't endorse anybody unless you know them. That goes back to your brand. Does that make sense? But start reaching out and endorsing people that you've worked with in the past. Start that list. Create what I always tell people, and some of you in here have heard me even say it, I'll write a script for you, like a doctor would write a prescription. And that prescription would be all the things you need to do on your LinkedIn profile to get things where you're going to start hitting. Jeff mentioned earlier, the magic usually starts at around 60, 65 connectors. That's correct. That's why when I was looking for the one individual, even though I knew him, I still couldn't find him because he didn't have enough out there for all the magic to start doing its work. And I don't know why that's set at that level, but if that's the case, I certainly believe it. So that's why it's once you get it started. I don't think when it showed 2,800 for me, I don't think I've managed it beyond maybe 1,200. The rest automatically kind of take care of itself, people that are reaching out to you, people that have done business with you. But be careful on who you're accepting from, and be careful who you're endorsing, because eventually you still want to make sure that your brand that's who you would truly want to have working for you, or you would truly do that recommendation. But here, these are powerful, because you are hoping that your skills that make you most marketable are the ones that people are looking for. And then you have the ones for military. Mine fall way down there or not even on there. But military, much lower, hopefully. I mean, it might start the other way, but you want to help encourage it by making the endorsement to your friend who you might have served 15 years with. Don't say that Bo knows tank driving. Say Bo knows operational mission accomplishment or organizational development or whatever it is within that job that civilians are going to be looking for. Don't make stuff up, but look for those skills that civilian employers are going to look for. Education level. Most of the times when you click on this, and it might be yours, and we can click on a couple of yours if you'd like, you'll usually have such and such degree and when you received it. And I see a lot of people put GPAs on there. I'm always under the impression that if there's something that is out there about me, or there's that identical twin, if I do that Google search that they mentioned earlier, and I have that identical twin out there, and that identical twin committed mass murder, then I want to make sure I answer that question before it's asked. Meaning, oh, by the way, if you do a Google search on me, you'll find another J.R. Richardson or Jerome Richardson that committed mass murder in California. That's not me. Or there's a professional, and this is true, there's a professional jazz musician, very well known. That's not me either. You know, so there's no way they'd get the latter, but the former would certainly be of interest if there was stories that came up. So do that Google search on yourself and know if there's any protective measures that you need to take where other people might not. So you want to put in there, if you put your GPA in there 4.0, that's fine. That's okay. But what if your GPA was 3.1? If you would have put it in there at 4.0, shouldn't you have put it in there at 3.1? Or 2.7? You want to make sure that, don't put that stuff in there because there's no reason for it. Now 4.0, there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But if I did 4.0 in my grad studies and I didn't put anything down here, what are they going to wonder? Or conversely, if I put down that I was 4.0 in undergrad and I don't put anything up there for grad school, what are they going to wonder? So make things consistent. If you're a 4.0 across the board, there's nothing wrong with stating it. In fact, LinkedIn even goes in there where you can add your GPA.
Yeah.
You can add that stuff. Doesn't mean you have to. I'm under the, again, executive recruiter. I'm under the impression that if you put things in there, I'm going to start assuming the other stuff. See, I am the guy that looks at the undergraduate GPA that you put in there and no GPA for your grad school. Now I'm going to wonder. So better not to even create wonder if everything's consistent. Yes, sir?
So you're saying don't even put one in it?
Well, if you have a 4.0 consistently across or a 3.8 consistently across, and that your academics is something you're very proud of, then absolutely put that in there if you'd like to. That's a personal choice.
Okay.
Me, because mine wasn't 4.0, I don't have it in there. But in grad school, they expect a lot more. That's why I question somebody who shows one and not the other. Grad school, you're expected to have higher GPAs to begin with. But usually an employer don't care about your GPA. The only time an employer really cares about your GPA is if it's the federal government and you're going for an internship program or something to that effect. As an employer, you're going to be a paid internship on the federal government. But very rarely, and anybody can correct me if there's any other instances that they know of, very rarely will an employer look into your GPA. But if you give them that information, then that's stuff that they get to go on. Does that make sense? It's kind of like when you're in court and they say, don't say, but just answer the question. Don't give them anything else. Doesn't mean you're guilty of anything. It just means you don't want to give them anything else to go on. Then each one of these, as you see, I could have just put Bellevue University project management. But I went deeper to put in a description of what makes my project management course different than the others. We're only one of 8 schools that are PMI certified by the Project Management Institute. What is that? Well, project managers know that's like the big guru in the sky. That's the worldwide accepted methodology that is taught and people get certified in project management as a skill set. So that's why I put that in there. And again, some of these words could be picked up by an employer. All the way down to even my CCAF degrees. Again, I don't put the dates down there when you received it because it could date you. It could, if I see that you graduated from your undergraduate degree in 1969, I know you're long in the tooth. That's a nice way of saying you're old.
Yeah.
Conversely, if I know that you are, and I figured this out already, if I already figured out from the information I have on there that you're about 58 years old or 57 years old, and you graduated with your 4-year degree in 2011, that also tells me you might be experienced, but you just got your degree recently. Do you see what I'm getting to? So don't put the dates up there, and then we don't even know. There's nothing wrong with that. It just means that you and I are going to have a conversation. What's the purpose of an interview? To get you an interview. Or I'm sorry, the purpose of a resume? To get you an interview. I give you the answer. I'm an easy instructor. But the purpose of a resume is to get you an interview. This is your marketing. The purpose of this marketing is to get you in front of somebody. So don't put the things in there. If I already know, oh, yep, this one's too old. I didn't go to jail. I didn't break any laws. See, I'm seeking you out. I can't ask you how old you are in an interview, but if I could tell how old you are already, I can go ahead and just eliminate you. Does that make sense? Now, if I got a chance to visit with you and I'm the executive recruiter, then I could sit there and take your age, knowing now that we visited a little bit more, now I know you're long, I can use that to help sell you to that potential employer that I'm working with. I could take something that might be a drawback to my customer that I know real well, which is that company, and I can turn it into a positive asset. Does that make sense? And then going through, here's again, Leadership Bellevue. These are things that are powerful to employers because if I'm going for a sales position, this is going to tell you what Leadership Bellevue is all about, and it tells you that I've been trained in leadership within my community, my professional community here, and worked with other business leaders throughout the community. So if you're looking for a representative for your company, you're going to probably desire somebody that's been trained professionally with other professional leaders within the community. And again, additional information, be careful here for the same reasons as everything else. And at the very top, I didn't go into it, but those of you on LinkedIn, you know what I'm talking about. It says, what are you passionate about?
Yeah.
Be careful about that too, because you might be passionate about saving the whales, but I might interpret it to mean that your political persuasion's over here. You might be passionate about guns and the Second Amendment. I might be persuaded to think that your political persuasion's over here. Either one of those are absolutely fine. But to the employer, remember, they get to choose. Make sure they like you first before they find out that you're also a minister, in your church. Make sure they like you first before they find out that you're passionate about saving animals or neutering cats or whatever the case may be, that you want to make sure that they like you. This is more professional. If you wouldn't have that conversation at a networking event, don't have it on your LinkedIn profile. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Again, it's all about consistency. And then there's the recommendations we talked about in a little bit more detail earlier. Organizations. Remember I told you I know how to find people? I know because of what organizations they belong to, where they're going to be. So you'll find, and I haven't updated this, used to track it a lot, you'll see that I'm involved with a lot of organizations. Lots and lots. A lot of those organizations I got involved with just specifically because of the people I was chasing. not because I wanted to be an engineer, but I was chasing engineers. So I went to organizations and events like Engineers Without Borders. I've been a member of the American Society of American Engineers since 1992. Those are powerful things. I'm in 2 different chapters, very much actively involved. But those are things that you want to know, because if those are the folks you're looking for, that's where they're going to be hanging out. Make sense? Following, it was already mentioned earlier. So you get to see this being alive for what was already mentioned. That's why I wanted you to see it, because this is, from a recruiter standpoint, this is what I'm searching on people as well. But this is companies that I know very well, and many of these I've done very large business opportunities with as teaming partners. We chased work and won work together and built things and tore things down. Mostly we tore them down, but we did good things. We did remediate a lot of earth too, so we made the environment better. But you want to keep track of all those companies so that when there's an opportunity out there, you're following them, you know what's going on, especially if they just won, HDR just won a major contract. If you're familiar with what's going on at HDR, you're going to know what they're looking for with that new contract. Because remember, they're not going to hire 160 people and then hope they get the job. They're going to put a proposal together, win the contract, and then go out and hire 160 people. Make sense? So that's why you want to be involved with the people that do what skills you bring to the table. If you're a writer and you could do technical writing, you should be following every single major contractor out there. You should be doing white papers and sending it to them. Because technical writers are in high demand, and they come from every space out there. English majors, technical engineers, all different kind of space out there. There's a technical writer right now working for one of the major contractors that we had hired right out of this office. Had no intention, no desire, no interest at all in being a technical writer. Absolutely loves the job. Why? Because he loves to write. That's why we put 2 and 2 together. So that's a neat job, and in high demand. And oh, by the way, that's one where they might not be hiring, but you can go and tell them, here I am, and they're going to say, put that guy on the payroll. Put that gal on the payroll. Let's see what she can do. Because that's where companies will take risk. If they see a talent out there, they'll add somebody, especially if they're chasing certain work. But if you have won contracts, you need to put that information out there so others can see it, because they want a winner. So there's that. Again, that was mentioned, but now you get to see it in play. Down here at the bottom, the Help Center. Remember I told you at the bottom you find that Help Center? LinkedIn will even go as far as, how can we help you? Type it in, they'll let you know. And they are very responsive, because I used to use them. Of course, when you're a good customer, dollar-wise, you have your own personal agents assigned to you. So if I have something going on, I just call Bill and he'll set it up. And if I don't know how to set it up, they'll do it for you and all that kind of stuff. But they will help you, and it's a neat organization. I met a lot of their leaders. It's a neat, very innovative organization. So we covered that. Now here's some other things to get at jobs. Remember when you were looking at those updates, or the company sends out a good information, usually with a company news report, they'll usually mention a couple of their people. Maybe this vice president did this. Maybe this marketing director did this. You can go in, especially with the upgrade, and you can send them an in-mail. Have any of you guys ever sent in-mails?
Well, that's where I need to get some information about how you're doing that.
Okay, well, we could do that separately while you're here today, because I will be glad to sit with every individual and go over these aspects with them in their own profiles that they want it. But I don't want to eat up lunchtime for folks on that. But you could definitely go out and send in-mails over here to different people, and you'll see that I've done it as recently as yesterday. There's a conversation with the person that I reached out to. There's folks that I used to work with. There's other folks, if I needed something, you'd keep in contact with. I was going to see if I can jump up and show you some, because you'll, every once in a while, you'll get some folks that'll reach out to you and simply want to hire you.
But these are,
Yeah, let me wrap this up. We'll get together after this is all over and go into each individual profile, and we'll be glad to do that with each one of you. And then I'm going to wrap up with just offering our services here. LinkedIn is my favorite weapon of choice for getting out there and reaching people, triangulating, and getting to know people. But the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway is make sure that your LinkedIn profile is branding-wise the same consistent message with all your other social media and with your resumes that you send out, because your potential employers will look. Guarantee. Thank you very much.